Hello, and welcome back to the Vibrant Health Show. I'm Dr. Shannyn Pearce. I'm so glad to have you all here. Let's get started. I am a little bit sad for the topic that I'm going to teach you guys today. I cannot believe we are back to school. I cannot believe we are closing in on fall, all the things that came so quickly. But we are, so that's what I want to teach you guys today. I've been getting so many questions about what are you doing to support your immune system? What am I doing for my kids going back to school? What do we do through fall in general? Because you want to have all that stuff in your hands and starting your fall immune system support now so that it's in your body and ready when things really start to get colder and the weather starts to change. I'm going to teach you all of those things today, what we do to prevent, what we do to support if you are sick, what we can do nutritionally to help with that, and a few other tips and tricks that I have up my sleeve that we use for my family. So there's going to be a lot of information in this live. Take notes, come back and watch it. For some of the big topics, I'll also post a graphic with a breakdown of everything I talk about a little bit later today right here inside the group. So look out for that later on, and I'll have kind of some bullet point notes of everything we go through. I'm going to teach you guys a lot of stuff today. All right, so we started back school last week. So I have started these protocols that I'm going to teach you guys a couple of weeks ago because I wanted our bodies to be ready going back to school. So if that's your case, you're still not too late. You can start now. But a lot of people too, I'm realizing, are being called back into the office. Maybe you've been working from home for an extended period of time. Lots of my clients and my friends are being told that we're not doing remote work anymore. You're coming back to the office. So you're around more people. You're exposed to more stuff again that a lot of us haven't been for a while. So I want to make sure whether this is back to school, if you have kids or not, if you work in an office, if you're going to be traveling, these are the same tips I would use to prevent or protect my immune system for those circumstances. And truly just generally going into the fall season and colder weather, these are great recommendations for everybody. So feel free to ask questions as we go. I'll try and get to as many as I can or come back after the live and answer any that I see pop up. So let's get started with prevention. So I like to keep it really simple. I am also, if you know me or you've worked with me, you know I'm an avid believer of changing your supplementation with the seasons. If you have been on the same multivitamin or the same immune support or the same thing for years at a time, you could potentially be creating imbalances because you're getting the exact same nutrients, the exact same herbs, the exact same things over and over and over again, but you're missing a plethora of other things that your body needs. So I will always give you every quarter as we change seasons, I'll kind of let you know what our general support is for each season, because you should be changing what you're taking for supplements. So what I do coming into the fall, and I always kind of start mid-August, is really start focusing on immune system support. So there are three things that I start taking right away to prevent, protect, support, whatever you want to call it. So the first one is always getting back on vitamin D, right? So a lot of times I will decrease it or I will stop taking vitamin D through the summer if my levels look okay, because we're outside more, I'm getting more from the sun, but knowing that we're coming into times that we're not going to be out as much, I always start back on a vitamin D right about this time of the year. A good maintenance dose is 5,000 IUs per day. Making sure with the vitamin D, you are conscious to have K1 and K2 together with your vitamin D. If you're not sure why, I actually did a whole video on vitamin D a few months back. You can search in the group for vitamin D and that will pop up explaining why it's much safer to take vitamin D with both K1 and K2. But that's something I started back for myself. I'm also going to give you some recommendations that I do for my kids because it'll be a little bit different. We'll have adult recommendations versus kids recommendations. So I take my 5,000 IU vitamin D. My kids, based on weight, will start vitamin D, but they'll be in smaller doses. I will post this in the graphic I'm going to post where I get my kids' vitamins from. So they do have a good liquid kids vitamin D that they take. I will post that later. So starting back on vitamin D, just about everybody needs vitamin D coming into the winter. Ideally, you get your levels tested. That way you know how much you need. Again, whole video on just vitamin D if you want to go back and watch that to know how much, what your level should be and all of that. But getting your levels tested would be great. But regardless, going into the winter, I'm starting back on 5,000 IUs and starting my kids back on a lower dose. So piece one is a good vitamin D. Piece number two is a great immune system support. I like to do an immune blend because you're going to kind of hit all different areas of your immune system. Things that I look for in an immune blend, and again, I'll post my favorite one after. One, medicinal mushrooms. Things like reishi is so great for your immune system. Chaga is so great for your immune system. They're also very gentle, so they can be taken long term. There are some specific things, like I'll talk to you about what you do when you're actually sick, when you come down with something you don't feel good. Those would be short-term recommendations, but not things that you would want to be on long-term. A good gentle immune support would be something you can do the entire winter. You could take it for a longer amount of time and not worry that you might be ruining your good microbiome or, killing off too much bacteria in your gut. You want to be careful about that. So medicinal mushrooms are very gentle, great for long-term use. I also like to add some echinacea in there. It's tried and true. Again, if you can find a blend like the one I'm going to post for you that has it all in one place, it makes it easier. But echinacea has been around for centuries. We've used it forever. We know it works. It's a great immune system support. Starting back on that coming into the fall is always good. I always like to add, it's called beta glucans. It's a great immune system support as well. It keeps histamine response and inflammation low, which is really important when it comes to immune system as well. And then you also want to make sure that you're getting some nutrients in there, right? Your B vitamins and things that really help strengthen your body, your function. Vitamin C is also great. Magnesium is great for that. But again, I like to just find it all in one immune system blend. That way I'm not taking 15 different things, right? I'm not taking a C and a zinc and a this and a that and a bunch of stuff in a pile of supplements. That's also probably not beneficial. So a blend is always helpful. And I have one I love, it's called Strong. And I'll post that for you guys after. But starting back on some type of good immune system support. For adults, my preference is called Strong. For kids, I have something, it's a liquid immunoberry that we use. Because it's liquid, so any age of kid is going to be able to take it, and it doesn't taste bad, right? Some of these things do not taste great, but it's not made for kids, which anytime it says made for kids, and this isn't everywhere, there are some better companies who do a great job, but if you're trying to get a kid's immune support or a kid's probiotic, typically just adding the word kids means they added a bunch of sugar to it to make it taste better so your kids will actually take it. So people will always send me, oh, can I do these immune gummies for my kids? You flip it over, the first ingredient, sugar, and then it usually has dyes and colors and all kinds of crap. Just because it's formulated for kids doesn't mean it's better for kids. It usually means they've added more junk so your kid will actually take it. So what I love about immunoberry is there's no added anything. It has some elderberry in there. It has some vitamin C in there. It has some echinacea in there. It has lots of great building blocks for your immune system. No added crap, totally safe for kids, and it doesn't taste bad. So my kids start that right away. Adults could take it. You just have to take more. It's not as powerful as the Strong blend that I like for adults, but better than nothing. So if you're an adult who doesn't like to swallow capsules, you can also do the immunoberry if that's easier for you. But that's something I've started my kids on a couple of weeks ago, and they will take it straight through the holidays just to make sure their immune system is well supported. So we have our vitamin D, we have a good immune system support. And then the third thing I add through the fall and winter is L-lysine, because it is specifically antiviral. A lot of the things that are coming out in the fall are viruses. We'll talk a little bit more about why that is in just a second. But we really want to make sure we're not only fighting off bacteria or strengthening the immune system, but we're giving our body back enough building blocks to truly be able to fight off any viral exposure we might have through the fall and winter. So adding L-lysine is a great gentle support. It can be taken for longer periods of time, and it really helps with the viral exposure. So those are my three preventions right off the bat: vitamin D, and immune system support, and L-lysine. And then for kids, what I would do in place of that, the kids' vitamin D, the immunoberry, and then I tend to start them back on a good kids probiotic. Again, there'll be a post telling you where I find all my favorite ones after this. Too much to go over in one video, but so a little bit of different recommendations for adults versus kids, but you're going to want to get started on those things ASAP, because what you don't want to happen is wait till you get sick, and then you have to go find this stuff, and then you have to order this stuff, and then you're waiting on it. And then it's a whole lot harder to manage these things naturally if you let it fester into a full-blown infection. So the key to really being able to manage your health and your immune system naturally is staying on top of it the entire season and having things on hand. The next ones I'm going to talk to you about, what do I do if I wake up and I'm sick, or wake up and my kids are sick, or my husband's sick, or someone in my office is sick? What do I do when there is a true illness? These are things you want to have waiting in your house so you can start using it immediately and not be waiting 2 or 3 days to find the stuff or have to go to the store. So making sure you're prepared. I call it my medicine cabinet makeover, like making sure these are things that you now replace all the crappy old stuff in your medicine cabinet so you're ready to use it when you need it. So what do you do when you're sick? My very first, I see lots of questions, but we'll get back to it. When are kids too big for child dose? You would go based on weight. So typically I'd say about that point, the 120 is the size of a small adult. I would start upping those doses for sure. Good questions. I'll come back and hit any other ones I missed. Okay, so what do you do when you are sick? I am an avid believer that every single family, whether you have kids or not, needs to have a nebulizer on hand at home. If you do not have a nebulizer, you can get one on Amazon for $40 or $50. It doesn't have to be fancy. You will use it often. It is well worth the purchase. And they have several different ones you can choose from. But what I do and what I've always done with my kids, at the first sign of illness, they wake up with a stuffy nose, they say their throat hurts, I hear them cough one time during the night, we are immediately nebulizing a high quality colloidal silver. So in a nebulizer, where you would normally put, if you're going to get like breathing treatments and things like that, in the chamber where you would normally put that, I put straight colloidal silver. I'll also put links to good quality silver. You always want to make sure it's the appropriate quality, but I'll put it straight in there, usually 1 to 2 teaspoons, depending on how big the kid is. So I would say kids 5 or under, probably 1 teaspoon, 5 and over, including adults, 2 teaspoons in that chamber. And then it has the mask that you breathe it in. So you sit there with the nebulizer breathing in the silver, but then you're getting it in the sinuses. You're getting it into the lungs so the infection doesn't settle. You're getting it into the throat to fight off anything that's in there. It's much more effective for upper respiratory gunk than just taking it orally. So having the nebulizer, starting it right away, immediately, I would start it 2 or 3 times a day if we were starting to get sick. And I do it preventatively for the rest of the family because it's one of the ways you can kill off whatever virus, bacteria, stuff is stuck in the body before it takes root and becomes an infection. I have done this with both of my kids their entire lives, and I've never had to give my kids an antibiotic because I have this stuff on hand. I know it's there and we start using it immediately and it works. My sons had RSV. They've had really bad chest colds. Like they've been sick. And this was enough to really help them get through it because we got to it early. I had everything on hand and we really made sure that we were hitting it hard. So it works. It's so effective and it's not going to damage the gut like an antibiotic would. It's not going to create any abnormal inflammation like a steroid would. So having those things on hand as your first line of defense is so, so important. So if you don't have a nebulizer, get one. It is well worth it, especially coming into the winter. And then I'll post my favorite sources for a good, high quality, safe colloidal silver that you can nebulize. That's number 1. Number 2, in addition to the immune system support we just talked about, the ones I started with are things I'm taking the whole winter. If I get sick, I'm going to continue to take those, but I'm going to add something called Monoloring. So Monoloring is not only great for the immune system, but I love that it has multiple properties. So not only is it helpful for viruses, but also bacteria and fungus, because sometimes when you're getting sick, you're not sure, is it viral, is it bacteria, unless you're going to go to the clinic and get swabbed and they tell you it is or isn't a virus. A lot of times you don't know. So just taking something antibacterial or antiviral might not be helpful. So I love that Monoloring kind of does all things. So in addition to my normal immune response stuff that we're taking, I'm nebulizing my silver 2 or 3 times a day, and I'm adding the Monoloring to really kill off whatever gunk has created the symptom in the first place. Those 2 things, the added silver with the nebulizer and the Monoloring, I'm only doing for maybe 5 to 10 days. I typically say keep doing them until your symptoms resolve and about 2 days after. So say you get sick on Monday, you're doing all the things, you're starting to feel better by Wednesday. I would still keep that up for like Thursday, Friday, just to make sure you knock it out. But then you would stop it, right? If any of this stuff persists over that 2-week mark, you probably want to go get checked out, right? Did you leave it too long? What else is going on? But again, if you get to it quick and you're diligent about this, a lot of times it's going to just clear itself up if you get to it right away. But those would not be things you would be doing long-term because they are powerful. And if you take them too long, you could destroy some of your good bacteria in your gut. You could create some of those imbalances. So we do not want to be doing those things every day ongoing, but they're in our arsenal for when we need them. Okay, that was already a lot, but let's go a little bit deeper. What do we do nutritionally for illness? So number one, coming into the winter, we always talk about flu season. I will say it's not just this magical time that all these viruses just come back to life. Like it's not just the flu, it's not just virus season. And now I'm sure we're gonna have COVID season because that's gonna be the virus that comes out during these winter months. But it's because number one, typically we're all going back to schools and we're exposed to more things. Number two, the weather is getting colder. We're not getting as much sunlight. We're not getting as much natural vitamin D. And number three, as soon as school starts back, we enter sugar season. My son's already come home with his backpack full of candy because every good deed they do at school apparently needs to be rewarded with sugar. We have told them that they shouldn't give him any, and he knows not to eat it. So he comes home with what he gets throughout the day in his backpack, and it's handful. And this is after I've requested that they don't give him sugar. So I can only imagine what the rest of the kids are getting. They're bombarded with sugar. And then we get into Halloween season, and then we get into Thanksgiving, and then we get into Christmas. We're tired, we're more in the dark, we're not in the sun, and we eat so much more sugar in the fall and the winter than we tend to do in the spring and the summer. The combination of those things is why it's flu season, right? It's not just a magical bug season. So knowing that, prepare yourself, right? Make sure you're keeping your sugars minimal, following an anti-inflammatory diet. That's really what you should be doing all the time, but even more important when you are sick. A lot of times, well, tell me in the comments, when you're sick, what's your go-to, especially if you don't do things quite healthy yet, if you're just learning. When you're sick, what are your go-to things that for you or your kids, you eat or drink when you're sick? Typically what I hear when people aren't feeling well, I'm like, well, what did you do? Oh, well, I loaded up on Gatorade for electrolytes. Have you ever read the ingredients of Gatorade? It is full of so much sugar. Even if you get Gatorade Zero, it has aspartame, it has dyes and colors and all kinds of crazy preservatives. It might have a little bit of electrolytes added in, but everything else that's in there has fully negated any benefit you're going to get from the electrolytes in there. So typically I hear, well, we did Gatorade, we were doing saltine crackers, which are gluten, sugar, no nutritional value. Oh, we did some, chicken soup. Okay, what kind? Oh, well, the one in the can or the one that was already pre-made because we weren't feeling good. We didn't want to make our own. Turn that over, full of sugar, full of wheat, full of gluten, full of preservatives. And then, oh, well, our throat was hurting, so we did popsicles. Like you made your own, like healthy popsicles? No, the ones I bought from the store, right? The fluorescent colored ones that can glow in the dark pretty much. Sugar, preservatives, crap. So those are just things we've been trained. Like when you're not feeling good, here's like your sick package, right? Your care package full of all this stuff. All of that's going to prolong your illness, right? If the more sugar you have, the more dyes and colors and preservatives that your immune system has to fight off, and the more inflammation that it is creating, the longer you are going to stay sick. In fact, when my kids stop or start not feeling good, we go as close to zero sugar as possible, which sometimes, if they're really not feeling well, also includes fruit for a couple of days. We really want nothing that's going to fuel the virus and the bacteria, which is sugars for the most of them. So instead of being the parent who wants to give them all these comfort foods because they're not feeling good, you actually have to go on the other side and be a lot stricter. So things we try and be really intentional about is I'll make them soup, homemade soup, but I'll try not to add things that have extra sugars or extra grains. Make your own popsicles. It doesn't take that long. What I do is we use an electrolyte powder. It's called Ultima. Doesn't have any additional sugars, has natural colors from foods, doesn't have any extra junk in it, but is chock full of electrolytes and tastes really good. My kids love the taste of the Ultima drinks. So I will make popsicles out of that. That way they still feel like they're getting a popsicle. It tastes good. They're getting the electrolytes, but there's no junk in there. Or I'll make them a smoothie. I'll do coconut milk. I'll do a little bit of low sugar fruit like berries. Berries are your lowest sugar fruit. So I'll put some berries in there. I'll put a little bit of protein powder. I'll blend that up and then I'll freeze it into smoothie popsicles. So they're still getting the popsicle to soothe their throat, but they're not getting all the crap from the stuff that we're buying them. So being really intentional with what we're putting in our bodies too, right? This is not just for kids. It's not the time to say, oh, I didn't feel good, so I ate all this crap. It's the time to say, I didn't feel good, so I was giving my body fuel to fight everything that's going off. So those types of things you also have to be prepared for, right? Because when you wake up not feeling good, the last thing you want to do is have to go get stuff to make those popsicles or go find stuff to make those drinks. Have some of that stuff in your pantry, in your cabinet, so you know you wake up not feeling great, it's already there. When it comes to immune system, that's the key. Have your tool, have your arsenal, know it's there. Don't be waiting for it. Don't be looking for it, because the longer you let it go, it does get a whole lot harder to get your body back on track. Doing it the natural way. So food is important, especially when you're sick. It's the time to decrease sugars, add electrolytes, the more you can add good healthy proteins, protein powders. If they don't feel like eating, you can mix protein in just water or put those in those popsicles. That way you're still getting good sources of protein, lots of electrolytes. Those are really your go-tos. And then lastly, in the winter, always kind of double duty my air filters. So if you have a really good air filter, my favorite is called Air Doctor. I'll put that link below as well. If you have a really good air filter, they can filter out 99.9% of all viruses and bacteria, which means if you don't want an illness to run through your family like it normally does, you know that's the worst, right? When one starts and then you see the other one start getting sick, and then there's a third person and you're just like, this is a disaster. Or someone finally gets well, and then the next person starts up, so then you're like 2 weeks into this thing because everyone's sick back to back. That's exhausting, and no one has time for that. So we always, as soon as one kid is sick, we've got to quarantine everyone. We put the Air Doctor filters on high in every room of the house. If you just have one, you just keep moving it around. If you have multiple, you turn them on at the same time. And we flush the air multiple times during the day because it's taking out a ton of that viral load and that bacterial load. So not only will it reduce how sick you get, right? The more exposure you're getting to these things in your own home, the sicker or the more your body's going to react to it. But it can also slow or sometimes even stop the transmission through the rest of your house because you're cleaning out that air. I know a lot of people will clean surfaces or be really diligent about hand washing. That's great, but the air you're breathing in, you're going to get so much more from the air than you are touching the same counter as somebody else. Make sure you're protecting your air. I love to, they have mini ones. If you work in an office setting and you're going to be around people, having that on your desk, so it's at least cleaning kind of the immediate air around you, so you're not getting as much exposure. But a lot of people don't realize that a really good quality air filter doesn't just do like toxins and molds and molecules. They can actually do the viruses and the bacteria, which is incredibly helpful coming into the months that we're going to be inside more. And you might not be able to open the windows. You might not have a whole home fan that filters that for you. So getting a great air filter is huge. I'll put the link to the Air Doctor below. We actually did an Air Doctor talk a couple of months ago, and so many of you had interest. They were doing their summer sale that they offered that same price ongoing for anyone who comes from our links. You get a huge discount, like half off the Air Doctor filters with the link that they provided us. So I'll make sure I drop that below. If you're looking for a good air filter, this is the absolute best price you're going to get on Air Doctors. And that's my favorite one by far. If you have other filters, people show me some all the time. There's a couple other ones that are comparable, but I really love how many different things the Air Doctor can do. That's my preference by far. So making sure you're clearing the air, not just the surfaces. And then you can also, for fevers, last thing, I know we have a lot of information, but you've probably heard this. Some of you probably have, not sure if it's true or not, but fevers are good, right? We don't often want to reduce a fever. In order to burn off viruses and bacteria, your body has to get over about 102 degrees. That's where you start to actually kill things off. So if you continue to reduce the fever, even naturally, right? People will ask me, well, what can we do naturally if we don't want to do Tylenol or Advil? But even naturally at that level, you don't really want to reduce it. You almost want to make it continue to burn so you get everything out. There are times even with a fever, I'll have my kids do a hot bath or a hot shower, or we have a little sauna blanket I'll put them in because it helps elevate and get that hyperthermia to kill things off. Now, if you get nervous, right, and now fevers always make people nervous, so if it's climbing to that 103, if it's climbing close to that 104, things that are helpful to reduce a fever, main one is apple cider vinegar. Actually putting it, like soaking a cloth in apple cider vinegar and water. I usually put like a cup or two of apple cider vinegar in the sink, fill it with about that much water, and then soak a cloth in it, and then put that over their forehead, put that over their chest, put that over the bottoms of their feet. It pulls out some of that heat and can help reduce that fever. You can also do things like arnica. You can do things that are anti-inflammatory to bring that down. But as long as it's lingering around that 102, maybe up to 103, you need that fever to burn, and that uncomfortable fever feeling that you want to relieve for them because, or yourself, right? Like you don't feel good. Like, oh, it feels so good to just, take a Tylenol and feel better for a few hours. Doing that prolongs your illness. It's going to be longer for your body to fight things off if you are constantly lowering that fever. So don't be afraid of the fever. Let it burn. It's doing its job. If you need to reduce it a little bit, use that apple cider vinegar. Be safe with where your numbers are, but most of the time your body's doing exactly what it needs to do. And we, too early in the process, just want the comfort. We want it reduced. We don't like to see that number. We want it to come down, but it is part of the way your body is naturally fighting off everything going on inside. Let it burn. Let it do its job. You will come through it faster. But not only that, you're building the right antibodies. So the next time you're exposed to a similar illness, your body will know how to fight it off better. If we keep shutting it down, if we keep muting it, your body will never learn the lesson, which means every time you're still going to feel as bad. It won't know how to fight it off. We're really training and teaching our immune systems how to properly function every time they get sick, right? They're learning, but we've got to stop intervening, right? And trying to fix things that our body is doing naturally. So don't be afraid of the fever. Make sure that you are cleaning your air and your environment so you don't continue to spread viruses and bacteria. Have your stuff on hand so you're not looking for it when you need it. Start your preventative stuff immediately, and then have the things on hand that you need for when you get sick so that they are already there. Those are my biggest tips. Continue to eat clean, whole foods, lower inflammation, but especially around times that you are sick. We really want to be giving our bodies back good, healthy proteins, electrolytes through Ultima, making your own popsicles, no dyes, no colors, no extra sugars. Be as clean as possible to fuel your body to be able to heal effectively. Hope that helps somebody coming into this season. I'll come back and answer any questions. I will post some of the links that we just talked about and the graphics right here in the group in the next little bit. And then I will see you all next week.